Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's that time once again. It is time for a social studies test. Today we're going to be studying for our Constitution final exam. We've done the review in class, but for those of you keeping score or studying at home, away we go. We began the school year looking at different types of government. There were several we looked at, but we'll start with oligarchy. An oligarchy is a situation where you have a rule by just a few people, usually the wealthier ones. Those with the money, well, they can get a few more breaks. They control things. Another form, theocracy. This is a rule by God or a higher being. Many cultures have this belief that God will tell them what to do, and is through their God's teachings that they will determine how they wish to live their lives. A monarchy, that's where you have, much like in England, you have a king or a queen, and they will kind of control things. Now, most monarchies today are more of just a puppet government where they're just there as figureheads. But a monarchy back in the olden days meant quite a bit. Another form, which many of you thought was great and funny, as we talked about, was anarchy. That's really kind of ruled by none. It's a free-for-all. People do what they want. If there were no rules, there was no one to stop you from doing things. Everybody has their own set of beliefs the way things should be done, but anarchy would just be pure chaos. A dictatorship. Many of you guys feel that's what things can be in classroom once in a while. All the powers with one person, usually with military control. Democracy. Here in America, we like to think we have democracy. There's two types we discussed in class. The first is the direct democracy. That's where everyone gets an equal vote or a say. Everyone can show up to the meeting, everyone gets a chance to speak, everyone gets to vote. It could take a very long time to get anything done, but everyone would have equal say. The other kind is the kind we kind of have with our Congress, is a representative democracy. That's where people elect others to represent them. Here in East Troy, we've elected Paul Ryan to be our representative for District 1 of the state of Wisconsin. So he represents us in the House of Representatives. District, direct, and representative democracies. That said, off we go to history. The country of England, they kind of won out the sweepstakes of who was going to settle in the United States of America area. There wasn't a United States of America yet, but England, France, Spain all came to this new world looking to take over. England, with a little stronger army and navy, they were able to push the French to the north, kind of bought out the Spain down south, and they took over the area that is today America. Well, that said, we didn't necessarily like all the things that England was doing. We didn't like as they taxed us. We didn't like how they had their troops here. So in the end, we decided to complain. It was Thomas Jefferson who wrote that Declaration of Independence. As we talked about, 27 of the 32 paragraphs were just complaints to the king. The king, of course, received that Declaration of Independence, and he laughed at us. There was nothing really we could do over here. For England, they had the great military. We were just colonists with our squirrel hunting guns. What were we going to do? That led to the Revolutionary War. Almost inconceivably, we won the war. Now all of a sudden, what were we going to do? We were getting rid of England. We had to figure out what was going on. Well, our first attempt of government was called the Articles of Confederation. But we all know what that did. That created a weak central government. And by a weak central government, what we mean is there was no real power for the United States of American government. It was all held by the states. Each state controlled things. We didn't have good roads. We didn't collect taxes. We didn't have a military. So the Articles of Confederation, they didn't quite work. Moving forward, our forefathers met in the city of Philadelphia, in case you haven't heard that one before. They wrote up a constitution, and they began the constitution with a preamble, with our 6 ideals that we would live by and create our constitution with. That being said, Article 1, they wanted to make sure we did not look like we had a kingdom like England. So they decided to start with the legislative branch. The legislative branch houses the most people, 100 senators and 435 representatives. It is in Washington, D.C., and their number one job is, of course, to make laws. Congress leads the legislative branch. You have the House of Representatives, which is based on population. You have the Senate, which is equal representation. Every state has two. In the House of Representatives, to determine the population, they take a census every 10 years. To be a representative, you have to be at least 25 years old. Every 2 years, you're up for re-election. The Speaker of the House, currently John Boehner, a Republican, leads the House of Representatives. And ours, as we said earlier, is this guy right here, Paul Ryan from Janesville. He's our District 1 representative. On the Senate side, you must be at least 30. You serve a 6-year term. The Vice President, he is the leader of the Senate. Remember, he only votes in case it's tied 50-50. And Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson are our two senators. And once again, the number one job is to make laws, pass bills. The executive branch is led by the President of the United States. The current president is Barack Obama. In order to become president, you must be 35 years old. You're up for election every 4 years, a 4-year term. Once you are elected president, you have a cabinet, 15 people to help you with most of the issues. Every year, you're required to give a speech before Congress called the State of the Union. Now, when it comes time for election, it's electoral votes. Remember, Wisconsin has 10. You need 270 electoral votes to win the election. There's 538 overall. Once you've won the election, you then get your inauguration. And the president, hopefully you're all saying right now, January 20th, because on January 20th, the president takes office. It used to be later in March, but due to technological change, the president was able to move in a lot sooner. They didn't have to wait for the weather to change. They didn't have to wait for train tracks to be open or wagons, wherever they used to move. The third branch is the judicial branch. The judicial branch is led by the Supreme Court. On the Supreme Court, there's 9 justices. They serve a life term. They're there as long as they want. They only review cases of constitutional importance. So more or less, if Mr. Lilla were to sue Mr. Moss, that really wouldn't make it all to the Supreme Court. And remember, with the 3 branches, we have to find a way to keep them even. To do that, we have a system of checks and balances. Each branch checks the others. Congress can impeach the president can override vetoes. The Supreme Court can rule laws passed by the legislative branch as unconstitutional. So it all balances out, checks and balances. Well, they weren't done there with the Constitution. Then we finished up with the amendments. Now I'm going to go pretty quick here because we've been studying these and you're doing a great job with these. Again, straight from our notes. First Amendment, 4 freedom, speech, religion, press, and assemble. Amendment 2, the right to own a gun. The third one, no soldiers in your home unless you say it's okay. The fourth one, they need a warrant to search your property. They must show the courts good proof to get the warrant or good reason to get the warrant. You can plead the fifth. You don't have to testify against yourself. 12 people in a jury. Decision must be unanimous. You might have to know that word. All members agree. Don't worry so much about the grand jury. We didn't talk about that much in class. Amendment 6. The speedy and public trial. The jury must be impartial. You have the right to know who the witnesses are against you and what they've said. You have the right to a lawyer. And you can subpoena witnesses to bring them to court. Amendment 7 talks about jury trials. Number 8, no cruel or unusual punishment. Amendment 9, the Constitution does not list all of your rights. The 10th one, any power not taken by the federal goes to the states. We talked about that again as being where the states get to choose their drinking age, driving age, to age you can get married. 11th Amendment, you have the right to appeal decisions. They go to federal courts. Amendment 12 creates the Electoral College. 13th, 14th, and 15th, they all deal with slavery and African Americans. It's the Civil Rights Amendments. 13th ended slavery. Abolitionists were people who were against slavery. 14th gave citizenship to anyone who took out papers. The 15th made all men over 21 could vote. And says you cannot discriminate. Discrimination is treat someone differently because of race, religion, or color. 16th Amendment. That's the one everyone loves right about now. Collect income tax. The IRS takes that. 17th, senators elected. 18, no more alcohol. We have the time of prohibition. We talked about speakeasies, bathtub gym flappers. Al Capone stepped up, but again, prohibition, no more alcohol. The 19th Amendment, women finally get the right to vote. Suffrage means that right to vote. The 20th Amendment is Inauguration Day. Amendment 21 got rid of or repealed the 18th Amendment. Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected 4 times. Now, after the 22nd Amendment, the most anyone can be elected is twice or serve 10 years in office. Amendment 23 creates Washington, D.C. It gives them 3 electoral votes. Took a little land from Maryland, Virginia. Amendment 24, you do not have to pay a poll tax to vote. Amendment 25, hey, if the president dies, vice president takes over. 26th Amendment, we talked about the Vietnam War a little bit. The age to vote is age 18. And finally, Amendment 27, Congress cannot accept a pay raise until after the current term. Now, best thing you can do as you prepare, make sure you look at all these vocabulary words I've underlined for you in these notes. So you're prepared for that section. Make sure you know the 3 branches. Make sure you know your amendments. If you have all the information given to you in this short video, you will ace the test. And again, if you struggle on the written test, please make sure you come see me to take the test orally. Hopefully this will help. Have a great evening. Good night.